In March of 2020, we had no idea what we were getting into or what was about to come. We were just thinking 2020 sounded pretty cool, a year of vision. But we were headed into a year of fog, confusion. We found ourselves shocked by hearing about an epidemic that was hitting our world. At first we thought it was kind of a flu-like deal, sort of a virus that was attacking our world. Pretty soon that was upgraded to a pandemic, a global crisis that we were all plunged into. And the news was overwhelming. It was somewhere else around the world, and then quickly it was right here in Canada, right here in Saskatchewan, and yes, even right here in Moose Jaw. Every conversation, every piece of news seemed to add layers to the confusion and add layers to what we were learning day by day and actually hour by hour. There was daily decisions, daily meetings, daily changes. And we as a church had to scramble just to keep up. We were gathering as leaders and inviting our church simply to pray. And right from the beginning, we told our church, we are going to get through this by leaning on God, by praying, by staying absolutely dependent on God. We were going to go through this on our knees. And as we prayed and as we discussed where we were going together as a church, we determined two primary things. The first thing was this: we as a church were determined to stay on mission. We were determined as a church to keep focused on reaching out, on connecting with those who were outside and beyond our church, and not to allow ourselves to get into kind of a protection mode or a self-preservation mode, even though everything in us screamed to just kind of hunker down and stay safe. Now, the other thing we determined as a church was that we wanted to let our city know that we were here for them. And that was actually the very first thing we did as a church when COVID hit, is we put signs out throughout the city and on media saying, we're here to serve you. If you need groceries, if you need prayer, if you're having mental health battles, call us. And we had an opportunity to serve many in our city in those first weeks and months during COVID. Pretty soon things began to shut down. Schools shut down, people started working from home, and yes, even our in-person services had to close, and we had to go fully online. We were so thankful that we as a church had already been investing in media. We'd been live streaming for 3 years before COVID hit, and we'd been on YouTube for over 7 years before COVID hit. And we were so thankful for our media team and for our church having the heart and the investment in media missions years before all of this hit. Praise God for the foresight to do that. It was an eerie and lonely feeling doing services with no people in the room. And yet we weren't so concerned about being isolated here in the building. We were concerned about each person engaging in these services at home and trying to figure out how to get their phones and their computers and their televisions to hook up and live stream with us and be a part of these services together. There was a great sense of camaraderie and togetherness and community that we built as we engaged in these services together and trusted God together through the difficult time. We found ourselves being a catalyst and a guide for other churches. We began sharing across Canada on broadcasts and helping churches locally through Western Canada and beyond with sound, with media, with COVID best practices. And as we were learning, we were networking with other churches to be able to do that. We found a great community of churches here in Moose Jaw that we were able to work with, pray with, develop great plans with, and share back and forth with for wisdom. At first, we put our current renovation plans for our sanctuary on hold. We weren't sure what COVID had for us when it came to our church's day-to-day realities and finances. But as time went on through COVID, we realized it was a perfect opportunity to engage in some of those renovations, and so we renovated our sanctuary. We lifted the ceiling in our sanctuary, changed our sprinkler and HVAC systems, added some lighting systems. We changed our screens and some of our media. We added a media booth that included lighting, cameras, sound, and so on. Our media teams added equipment and changed practices almost daily, certainly weekly. We had a huge learning curve on our hands to figure some of these things out. We also began to realize that we needed to do everything we could to connect as a church. And so we added Zoom calls every single day. We had Zoom Bible studies, Zoom prayer meetings, Zoom small groups, Zoom women's gatherings. We had men's breakfast and Celebrate Recovery and youth and young adults on Zoom, and then later on live streaming some of those. We began to add kids ministry classes on video so that families who were at home and not able to come to the service were still able to engage in our children's ministry. And our children's ministry began to send out packages and curriculums and crafts to homes that wanted them. We added daily video devotions online, weekly testimony, conversation. We realized that to stay connected as a church, we would need to do everything we could to send emails, to do video devotions, behind the scenes updates, just to keep people feeling like we were still on the same page together. One of the things we added at that time was care calls. We wanted to call the people in our church just to say, we're praying for you, and ask if there was anything we could do for them. We had dozens of volunteers who signed up for care calls, and we made hundreds upon hundreds of calls. Those were so powerful and effective that they eventually evolved into a massive project where we created care packages. With the care package program, we built over 350 care packages and delivered them to homes to tell people you're being thought of, you're being cared for. One of the beautiful things in that care package was a 30-day devotional called 30 Days of Faith, written by people right here in our church. Through the last 16 months, we have gone through various iterations of how we've done our services. As the different waves, first and second and third waves of COVID had hit, we've had different rules that we've had to follow to keep everyone safe. We've had to add various aspects of safety practices into our services. Sometimes we were allowed to have 30 people, sometimes we were allowed to have 150 people, sometimes we had 2 services, sometimes 3 or even 4 services. Sometimes we were completely online, sometimes we were open. But through that entire time, church, you have been faithful. You have been sticking it out with us. You have been encouraging. You've been praying. You've been connecting. And we are so thankful for every single one of you. On top of that, we've had over 100 volunteers who've put in thousands of hours, many times risking their own health, battling their own challenges and struggles, mental health battles and so on, but saying, I want to serve, I want to help, I want to be a blessing, I want to help make sure that our church continues to thrive and continues to be a blessing. And at the end of all of this, we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your serving. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for giving. Thank you for being a part of what God has been doing in this place. I think of Paul's words when he just said, I thank my God upon every remembrance of you.